The MIT Enterprise Forum of Texas, in association with Houston Public Media, presents Shale Gas Fracking, Sustainable New Energy Paradigm? Brought to you by American Gas Association, committed to the safe delivery of clean natural gas to more than 65 million homes and businesses. Also sponsored by Oil and Gas Journal and Ensley Properties.
Thank you, Jim. Our next speaker is Mike Watts with Halliburton.
Good evening, everybody. When we think of shales, we no doubt think of challenges. There are challenges that go across a broad group, and many of the speakers tonight have talked about that. But from an engineering standpoint, we see these as opportunities. And I'd like to talk some about the innovations that are going on. There's no way in this short a period of time that I can do it justice, but what I want to do is give you a thought about the breadth of some of the things that we're looking at. When you start talking about hydraulic fracturing, everybody talks about the chemicals that are used and the pieces that are there, and I'd like to touch on that just a little bit. We've got a new fluid that we've developed. It's called Clean Stem. It's, the ingredients are sourced entirely from the food industry. It's a fluid that's gaining popularity, but what's more important about it is it kind of started a new trend in some of the development of fluids that we had. It's been on the market for almost 2 years. We've had supply issues and a few other things getting them from the industry, but we're getting that going. But what's wonderful about it is it set a platform for other fluids that we've got that we're developing that are come out. And you'll hear more and more about these fluids as we develop going into the future. We are also developing mechanical solutions to chemical problems. And what I mean by that is that in our business with our frac fluids, we use biocides to control unwanted bacteria. Well, what we did was develop and used ultraviolet light on our locations that actually help treat the fluids. We've treated over 1.5 billion gallons of water, hydraulic fracturing fluid, with our what we call clean stream solution. That's eliminated almost 250,000 gallons of biocide out of the system, and this thing is growing. We're building units as fast as we can, so as these kind of technologies take hold, the numbers are already impressive, but they're going to start making a big difference in our overall footprint. When you look at the whole water management cycle, as an engineer, I'm really excited about where we're going into the future. I think we're going to have some of the biggest impacts made here in a positive way than we will in any of the other places that we look at. But our Clean Wave system, for instance, is a system that uses electrocoagulation to recycle flowback and produced water and allows us to refrac with it. At the end of the day, it's around 140 million gallons that we've recycled. That's 140 million gallons that wasn't pulled from the environment. That equates to about 26,000 truckloads of trucks that weren't going up and down the highway and that sort of thing. And again, this is a technology for us that's been on the market for about 1.5 years, so it's already starting to make its strides as we move there. We're also looking at every aspect of our surface delivery, and one of the pieces that we have is it's called Sandcastle, and we're actually reinventing how we deliver proppant to location. Typically, we have our storage bins are laid horizontally, but we had some of our young whippersnappers out there that didn't know any better, and they stood it upright and said, why don't we use gravity? So we started doing that, and there were a lot of modification, a lot of engineering things that had to go into making these things stable and get them to work. But what did that do? We've now got switches that are run by solar panels. We've eliminated conveyor belts. We're starting to eliminate diesel engines off of locations. And I'm sorry I don't have the NOx and the other kind of emissions that we've reduced just from this one simple application. But again, it's already starting to make strides. So we're looking at every aspect on the surface, right? Now, one of the things that we're doing as well that gets missed in the equation, we talk about horizontal drilling, hydraulic fracturing and the like, but we're doing things now from a computing horsepower perspective that we could have never imagined 10 years ago. We're just doing them routinely, and I'll give you a little bit of an example of that. We're moving into areas now where you've got topography changes. You know, there may be hills, mountains, and the like there. There may be communities, towns, there's schools, there's lakes in some of these areas that are out there. So the question becomes, how do you efficiently start designing and optimally place well bores that are out there? We've got a software program that's called Decision Space, and basically what we're doing is we are taking the surface information, we're taking subsurface information, and through the software that's out there, if you ever get a chance to see one of these from a 3D visualization, it's really pretty powerful, and it is rocket science. But what we do is we can take that software and it'll lay out optimally how to lay those well bores down in the formation to produce those formations. Then it'll look at the surface and it says, okay, where's the optimal place that we can put our pads for drilling and production and all that, and then it connects the dots for us. And what's wonderful is that an engineer now, with the flip of a switch, can actually change a few of the input parameters and actually optimize their cost, their performance, and the other pieces that are out there. Beyond that, we've got, and I apologize for this slide, some of the squiggly lines didn't turn out like they were supposed to, but we've got a technique that's called microseismic, and basically what it boils down to is when we fracture a well, that fracture, every time we create a fracture, it sends off a sound wave, and we've got very sensitive listening devices that we will put down another well, and as it picks up those sound waves, it starts painting a picture of exactly where that fracture is. And this is it's a science that's evolving as we're moving ahead. Well, what we can do with that is we can actually take this now and start putting it into these geomodels that we have, and we can start painting a visualization of what this looks like a mile or 2 miles away from where we are. Now, as a public, it's hard to understand what's going on downhole, and that's part of the issues that people were talking about, because the general public doesn't understand some of the science of what we're doing. Well, the reality is through techniques like this, we can actually start demonstrating. If I had the time, I could actually put this in a real live mode, and you could see each one of the colors that run along the bottom is a stage of a hydraulic fracturing treatment as it's being performed in a real-time basis, right? So we've got these pieces in here that actually help us start pinpointing where the fractures are going. Well, beyond that, if you hone into it, what we can start doing is you start looking at these in very finite cubes, and you can start saying to yourself, from a stimulation effectiveness standpoint, how did we treat that formation? How have we, with the amount of fluids that we've put in, how effective is the production? How effective did we touch this formation that's out there? So we can start making changes in our fracture treatments. We can start doing this on a real-time basis. And what we can do is that we can affect the well that we're fracking on, but we can definitely affect the future stimulation treatments that we're doing on future wells. So what does that do? That allows us to do more with less, right? We can use less fluids, we can use less horsepower, we can pinpoint more precisely where we're fracking and actually increase the production out of these well bores. Now, beyond that, and this is kind of an eye test, I would suggest that if you have a chance, go out and read the American Oil and Gas Reporter from July 2010. Kevin Fisher wrote a paper. And basically what he did, the Barnett area has been studied from a microseismic standpoint more than any other basin that's out there. They covered 18 counties. It was over about a 10-year period of time. It covers about 2,200 wells. And what you can see is, if you look into the paper, and again I apologize, but each one of the colors along this line the red line that goes along there represents a county. So what they did was they went in to each one of the jobs that were done, they did a microseismic on it, they started looking at where the tops and bottoms of these fractures were, and they basically plotted that out. Then what they did was they went to the USGS and said, where's the deepest groundwater that's in that area and corresponds? So if you look at the far right of the table over there, here's the deepest aquifer in this particular place, and I chose this because on this side, this is the shallowest fracture that we had. So at the end of the day, they're marrying up the deepest groundwater that we have with the top of fractures. So when you start hearing that there's thousands of feet of separation, from a physics standpoint, from an engineering standpoint, we always knew this. Now we can start taking these other sciences and deploying them to not only help us optimize, but actually show and demonstrate where we are with relation to groundwater, right? So with that said, what I would like to leave you with is that there's a tremendous amount of things that are going on. Shales themselves are a classic example of what technology has done. They wouldn't exist today if we didn't have some of the advancements that we've had made. And what I would say is as we're moving forward in our thinking and the activities that we have out there, especially from a legislative or regulatory perspective, we need to make sure that we do protect the environment, that we do manage our costs, and that we do manage the effectiveness of our production. But we also need to be very careful that we don't do anything that would stifle this innovation that's out here. And I can tell you from an engineering standpoint, and I've been with the company for 30 years now and seen a lot of innovations. Well, we're starting to see a tremendous growth in the innovations that we have out there. So we need to keep focus on that. And with that, I'll thank you.
Thank you, Mike.